There's a 1963 Aston Martin DB5 sitting in my garage right now. Silver. Original interior. One of 1,058 ever made. I bought it 12 years ago for $480,000. Today it's worth just over $2 million. My ex-wife's attorney argued in court that she deserved half of it. She'd never sat in it once. My name is James Calloway. I'm 47. I built a wealth management firm from a one-room office in downtown Chicago into a $340 million operation. I collect vintage watches and classic cars. And for 7 years, I was married to a woman who looked at everything I'd built and thought one word: mine. This is the story of how she tried to take it all, and how she walked away with nothing. I met Vanessa at a charity gala in October 2015. Stunning. Sharp. She told me on our third date that she didn't need anyone to take care of her. I thought that was the most attractive thing I'd ever heard. We married in 2016. Lake Geneva. 200 guests. I paid for everything. She moved into my house on the North Shore, 5 bedrooms. 3-car garage I'd already outgrown. 7 classic cars at that point. The DB5. A 1969 Ferrari Daytona. A 1957 Mercedes 300 SL Gullwing. A 1966 Shelby Cobra. Cars I'd been collecting since my late 20s. Bought carefully, documented meticulously. Vanessa walked through the garage exactly once in 7 years of marriage. She called them that dusty old thing. She thought the whole collection was worth maybe $500,000. Total market value was $7.8 million. She understood the watches slightly better. At least those were wearable. 31 pieces. A Patek Philippe Ref. $24.99 worth $2.1 million. An FP Journe Sonnery Souverain at $450,000. A. Richard Mille RM56-02. Sapphire at $1.8 million. She wore the Rolex Daytona to dinner parties. Called it the sporty one. She had no idea what she was putting on her wrist. The marriage was fine for 3 years. Not great. Fine. Vanessa's design business slowed after the wedding. She said she was managing the house. I gave her a $12,000 monthly personal allowance. Funded 2 full home renovations. The second one cost $380,000. Because she changed her mind. About the aesthetic after the first. I have the invoices. By year 4 she'd stopped working entirely. I didn't push. What I noticed instead were the trips. Girls' weekends that stretched to 10 days. A design conference in Monaco that had no design conference attached to it. Phone calls she took in other rooms. I'm not a suspicious person by nature. I build trust for a living. Which is exactly what she was counting on. The moment everything changed was a Tuesday in March 2019. I came home early to a meeting that was cancelled. Found her in our bedroom, door half open, voice low. He doesn't suspect anything, she was saying. We have time. Just be patient. She saw me. Hung up immediately. Said it was her sister. Her sister lived in Seattle. They weren't close. I said okay. Went downstairs. Stood at the kitchen counter and thought very carefully about what I'd just heard. He doesn't suspect anything. Not she. He. I hired a private investigator named Marcus Webb 3 weeks later. By the following Wednesday, I had photographs. His name was Derek Holt. 42. Commercial real estate developer. Recently divorced. They'd been seeing each other for 14 months, which meant it had started 8 months into our marriage decline. I looked at the photographs in a coffee shop on Michigan Avenue. Closed the folder. Ordered another coffee. Then I called my attorney. Catherine Aldridge. 20 years in family law. A reputation that made opposing counsel nervous before the first filing was submitted. Tell me about your assets, she said at our first meeting. I handed her a spreadsheet I'd prepared the night before. The house, $3.2 million. The cars, $7.8 million. The watch collection, insured at $6.4 million. My firm, valued at $34 million. Then I told her something that changed everything. Every car in that garage. I had documentation proving premarital. Ownership or purchase with. Traceable premarital funds. Every watch. Purchased through corporate accounts with 20 years of meticulous records. Insurance appraisals every 2 years. Purchase receipts back to 1999. Chain of ownership on every single piece. Catherine smiled for the first time since we'd sat down. "You're going to be fine," she said. I served Vanessa the papers on a Monday morning in September 2019. She read the front page, looked up at me, and something shifted in her face. Not shock. Calculation. She hired Gregory Marsh within 48 hours, paid his $35,000 retainer from our joint account. The demands came fast. The house. Half the cars. Half the watches. $18,000 monthly in spousal support for 10 years. A share of my firm. The car argument collapsed the moment we produced 11 years of documentation. 0 marital funds ever used for the collection. Every purchase predating the marriage, every appraisal, every maintenance log. Then we produced the household payroll records, the full-time housekeeper, the property management company, the personal assistant. Vanessa's contribution to our household had been supervisory for 4 years. We had the payroll to prove it. The watches, corporate records killed that argument in one filing. The house, I conceded. Catherine advised me to negotiate rather than fight. Vanessa got a cash buyout, $1.1 million. Not the address. Not the life she'd planned to keep. Just a check. On spousal support. Catherine introduced 3 years of Vanessa's pre-marriage tax returns. $180,000 to $240,000 annually as a designer. She introduced the Monaco photographs. She introduced Derek Holt. The court awarded $6,500 monthly for 3 years. Not 10 years. Not $18,000. Vanessa's face when the judge read that number was the first time in 7 years. I'd seen her genuinely surprised. The divorce was finalized in April 2020. Derek Holt ended things 2 months later. Apparently the version of Vanessa he'd been seeing. The one in a $3.20 million house wearing a $280,000 watch to charity galas was more attractive than the one with a $6,500 monthly check and a rented apartment. The 1963 Aston Martin DB5 is still in my garage. The Patek Philippe Nautilus is on my wrist as I tell you this. The firm had its best revenue year in 2021. She built nothing. She took nothing. I'm not angry. Anger is expensive. I'm just a man who kept what was his. Subscribe for a new story every day.